Hi, I'm Mollissimo, and like many of you, I am currently making my way through a draft of a novel. And with this draft and every other draft I've ever written, I'm always on the hunt for things to make my writing experience easier. Mainly for me, that's going to be tips and tricks to get the actual act of starting to write less daunting. That always seems to take a lot of mental energy. A couple of months ago, I began exploring a feature on my MacBook called Apple Shortcuts, and I've integrated this into my writing process, and so far it has been incredibly helpful. Basically, Apple Shortcuts is a system within your MacBook that lets you, for lack of a better word, code a script that your computer will follow anytime you press a specific icon. Now, don't panic, you do not have to learn a programming language. The Shortcuts app is set up in a pretty intuitive way that helps you, aids you in your creation of your scripts. I have used them for the past couple of months to basically turn all the steps I normally take before I start writing into very quick little shortcuts. Since they've been so helpful for me, I figured I would make a video kind of walking through my process and my understanding of them. I'd like to showcase some of the shortcuts I use, and hopefully if you're an Apple user as well, you might find them helpful too. Now, I would like to preface this whole thing by saying my ability to use this feature is very amateur, and I recognize that. So if you're an expert and you have shortcuts with scripts that are like 50 actions long or even longer than that, feel free to laugh at me, but also feel free to share any tips and tricks you might have down in the comments. Now, for us newbies, to show you how intuitive it can be, I'm going to walk you through the setup of a shortcut that's very simple, but I personally think very useful. First, you're going to open up the Shortcuts app. You don't need to download it from the App Store. If you've updated your computer within the past year or two, I think it should already be on there. Then you're going to create a new shortcut. You can give it a name. I'm calling this one Outlining Time because I'm going to try and make a shortcut that you can use if you're working on a story but want to be in two documents at once. Basically, you want to be in your draft and your outline. You can pick a special color and icon for your shortcut so it's easy to differentiate. There are tons and tons of icons. For this one, I'm picking a laptop because that feels fairly on theme. And now it's time to set up the script. Basically, this means every single time you want to run this shortcut, it's going to follow this script and do each of these actions in the order that you state. Since I want to work on both an outline and a draft itself, I need to create actions to open these documents. On the right-hand sidebar, there's a list of all the potential actions you can use. There are a lot of them, but there's also a search function so you don't have to scroll through every single action every single time. I'm going to click on the Open File action. Clicking on this moves the action into the workspace where we are building our script. Now I can click and specify which file I'd like to open and which app I'd like to open that file with. I'm making the first action to open my sample story outline in the Pages app. Then I'll repeat this process to create an action to open the draft of the project in Scrivener. And finally, since I'm feeling pretty fancy and I want the shortcut to basically do all the hard work for me, I'm going to tell it to put both documents into a split screen view. That way I can look at them both at the same time without having to switch back and forth between them. Now we are going to run it to make sure it works the way we want it to. This is a very important step. And there you go. You've made your Outlining Time shortcut. Once you have your shortcut, you can either start it directly from the Shortcuts app. You just click on it and press the little play button, or you can right click and say run. You can use Siri theoretically through commands, although in my experience, this is highly unreliable. Or you can put your shortcut on the dock of your desktop. This is my preferred method because it means I don't have to open up the Shortcuts app. It's totally reducing down the number of steps I have to take before I start one of these shortcuts. And it's nice because you can kind of always see it there on your dock, so it's like an incentive or a little reminder that's just there saying, you could be writing right now. It's really easy to get it on your dock. All you have to do is start in the Shortcuts app. You select the shortcut you're interested in moving to your dock. You go to File and you just put Add to Dock. You can reposition it however you like. I like to keep thematically similar shortcuts next to each other, so I'm going to put this outlining shortcut next to my writing time shortcut, which we will get to later. And there you go. Anytime you want to outline, all you have to do is click on that little icon of the laptop and your workspace will basically just set itself up. Run through that script. It's going to open up Pages, it's going to open up Scrivener, and it's going to put your draft and outline in split view together side by side. If you're still with me and think that this whole process might be something you're interested in using, I have a couple of other shortcuts I'm going to walk through that I've designed. I use design very loosely because they're incredibly simple, some even simpler than the one we just made. I have one that's a little bit more complicated, but ultimately in the grand scheme of things, it's only about 11 actions long, so it's really not that complicated. All right, so let's walk through some of these other ones. First is my remove distractions shortcut. Sometimes when I want to be productive, my biggest obstacle to getting work done on my computer is just the general chaos of my computer. I might have an AuthorTube video that I've only watched 25% of. I might have my notes app open, an Excel file that I have been working on 3 days ago, 20 different research tabs on Chrome or Safari, and it's all just very overwhelming. So this shortcut is a kind of one punch step of making all of that go away. Basically, I can run this shortcut and it closes all of my apps and it puts my computer into focus mode so I don't get any distracting texts or other kinds of notifications. It's amazing. If you are going to make a shortcut similar to this one, or you're going to use the close all apps action, my one suggestion is that you remember to make an exception so that it doesn't close the shortcuts app. If you don't make that exception, then as soon as shortcuts gets to that action line, it's gonna close itself and the rest of the shortcut won't run. Now, if your shortcut is just this one simple step of just close all apps, then whatever, you don't need to make that exception. But like on my shortcut, the next thing it does is put my computer into focus mode. It's important that shortcuts is still open, so that way the no distraction shortcut itself can still run all the way through its script. And don't worry about losing any unsaved changes with this command. There's a little box that you can tick in the script line that basically says ask app to save all changes. So if you have a Word document open or Pages or anything like that, the shortcut will make sure that those changes get saved before it closes the app. Another shortcut that I have can be very useful if you want to get into the writing mood, but you're not quite ready to start actually writing or drafting or editing just yet. I call this my Inspire Me shortcut. It's a few simple actions. The first thing it does is it pulls up your writing playlist, you know, the one you've made that this song is this character or this song is for this scene specifically. It pulls that up and it sets it to kind of a lower volume level. Sometimes when I've been designing these shortcuts and I don't put in a volume control, it starts so loud. So I highly recommend the volume controls. And the final step that it does is open up the web page of the Pinterest board for your story. So that way you can be listening to your stories playlist, looking at the pins that you've made for this project. It just kind of allows for a visual and sonic immersion into your story space so that hopefully it gets you into the mood to actually start writing. All right, the next shortcut is the simplest of them all. Sprint. If you ever want to start a writing sprint, it's just a single click away. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't work on a MacBook because Macs just don't have a clock app that can start timers, but it works like a dream on the iPhone and isn't that different of a setup experience. All this shortcut does is start a timer for a specified amount of time, whatever length of sprints you like. If you're a 15-minute person, if you're a Pomodoro and like 25, you just have to put in what amount of time it is, and basically that's it. The one other thing I recommend here is just making sure that it's actually on your home screen, or if you have a specific section of your phone that holds all your writing related applications, this would be a great place to put this. Yeah, and it's just there. It's a single click. It starts that timer. You can start your sprint and you're good to go. And finally, the most complex shortcut that I have is called writing time. I love this shortcut because it takes elements from all the other ones plus a little bit more and combines them into one very efficient step to get me ready for my writing hour or day or whatever it needs to be. And I'm gonna walk you through it step by step. The first thing it does is quit all the apps except music and Discord and shortcuts, of course. Now, I do leave Discord open just because even though it could be considered a distraction, Discord is where I usually run my writing sprints, and oftentimes I'm in a voice channel with someone and we're sprinting together, but then we check in at the end, and it would just be weird if Discord closed and then I left the sprint, so Discord remains open. Then there is an action to wait 3 seconds. Okay, this one I'll admit is a little bit woo-woo. When I was first creating this shortcut, I felt like it kept getting stuck on like the first and second commands and it just wouldn't run properly. And so I just took a guess and I said, well, what if it just needs some time to complete one before it starts the next? So that's why I have it waiting those 3 seconds. And ever since I put that in there, it works perfectly. Do I know why it works? No. Am I gonna question it? Also, no. Then it starts playing a playlist, not my story playlist, but a good instrumental playlist that I enjoy writing to. And it also sets the volume at an appropriate level. Then it hides all the apps I've kept open, that being Discord, music, and shortcuts. That way they aren't cluttering up the desktop and distracting me. Then it turns on my work mode, which prevents distracting notifications. It makes my computer appearance dark, which I prefer for writing. And it opens my draft of Project HR and Scrivener. And because I was feeling a little bit silly when I was setting up this shortcut, it also sends a message to my writing friends, Katie, Ann, and Devasia, to let them know that I've started work on the story, and it uses slightly colorful language. This has actually ended up becoming my favorite part of this shortcut. Sometimes it's the reason I even start writing is because I want to send them this text message. I find it very amusing, so I've left it in even beyond the setup stage. And there you have it. That is my very quick, very amateur explanation for how Apple Shortcuts can potentially aid you in your writing process. I hope you've been able to take some inspiration from this. Feel free to pause on any of the screens where I was showing my scripts for my shortcuts and just copy them as you will so you can use them for yourself. And as I mentioned before, there are so many possibilities with this app and with shortcuts in general. The number of actions that you can take is, I mean, it feels countless. It's just crazy all the things that you can ask your computer or your phone to do for you. And in your future exploration, if you find some interesting quirks or you have your own tips and tricks, feel free to leave a comment down below. And as I continue to get familiar with the system, who knows, maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video way down the line. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Theoretically, I will be having another video go up next Tuesday, but until then, go be happy, go be healthy, and go write. Bye.